Okay, just so everyone knows, the meeting will be recorded this evening. So with that, I would like to call the meeting to order. We were here for the earlier part of the day and did our general municipal business, and now we're going to do our planning items. But before we start, I'm going to ask our planning assistant to give us a little bit details on this evening's procedure, please.
Hello, everyone. Council wishes to
Recording in progress.
Council wishes to thank you for taking an interest in what is happening in your municipality by attending this evening. The purpose of these public hearings is to receive representations from the applicant as well as any persons who wish to make them concerning what is being proposed. We will hear first from the applicant and then from those present who wish to make representations, starting with anyone who wants to speak in favor of the proposal, followed by those who are opposed to or object to the proposal. At the end of these other presentations, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to your questions or concerns. If anyone intends to make a presentation for any of the hearings scheduled for this evening, please record your name and contact information on the appropriate sign-in sheet located at the desk as you enter into council chambers tonight. Applicants will also sign in, please. If you haven't signed in, please do so now so you have an opportunity to speak to council. At the end of each presentation, the members of council may ask for clarification from the speaker or on any fact or issue, but will not enter into a debate. Persons speaking must address the chair. If they have questions that they think the applicant should answer, they should raise them in their presentation to the chair. The applicant will have an opportunity to respond to the questions when the other presentations are finished.
Thank you for that, Kayla. So with that, the first item we have on our planning agenda this evening is variation order number 97 of 2023 in the name of Gustafson. And if I could have a resolution to move into variation board, please.
Resolve the regular meeting be adjourned and the public hearing be open for variation order 97 of 2023.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Borges, Councillor Mazzarowic seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Femi, can you walk us through this application, please?
Just before I start clicking and changing Good evening, council members. The first item tonight is variance application BO 97.
Femi, before you go any further, I'm going to ask you to please speak up because there's a lot of background noise out in the hallway, and unfortunately we can't close the door, so I'm going to have to ask you to use your outside voice.
So the variance application tonight is BO 97 of 2023. The address is 191 Downey Road, road number 29107. The intent is to increase the unit area from the required 1,200 square feet maximum to 1,728 square feet maximum, and the mean height of the required 15 feet maximum to 19 feet maximum in the DD zone. This is the variance requestable. It shows what the subject site is zoned for general development. In that zone, the maximum height for accessory structure is 15, the applicant is proposing 19. And the accessory unit in terms of size is 1,200 square feet, and the applicant is proposing 1728. The map shows the location, that is the subject site and the surrounding context. And this is the site plan that is submitted to the RPD by the applicant. It shows the existing house on site, the existing accessory structure on site that is being modified. Applicant's elevation plan are submitted to RPD for council's consideration. The existing garage The existing garage complies with the AR zone.
Red Dodge van.
Dodge minivan, red?
Yeah, I think somebody's gone out.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Femi.
Just for council's consideration, the existing garage complied with the AR requirements for access structure in 2005, which means when the garage was constructed in 2005, it complied with the then zoning, which is AR, architectural restricted. However, a 448 square foot lintel was added to the 1280 square foot detached garage without a permit. The property has since been rezoned to DD general developments, where the max allowed access structure is 1200 square feet maximum height. Maximum height allowed is 15 feet, while the garage is grandfathered under the DD, given that the subject site was rezoned in 2005. Any alteration requires compliance with the DD zoning requirements. The applicant is renovating the existing 1728 square foot garage by increasing the height to 19 feet. Given that the proposed building alteration is vertical, which means the applicant is increasing the height, it will not affect the existing site layout. Council should consider the compatibility of the requested variances with the general nature of the area. There are no concerns from the commenting agencies regarding this proposal. RRPD is recommending three conditions should council choose to approve this application. One is that the variance be limited to what is being applied for. And the second is that applicant obtain variances for permits and all required permits with RRPD. And that the existing garage is to be used for personal storage only. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you for that, Femi. Are there any questions from members of council to the planner? Not seeing any hands being raised, so is the applicant in the audience this evening?
We are.
Do you have anything that you would like to add to your application at this point in time?
No, I don't think so. He did a very good job of explaining what's going on and what's happened in the past, so I feel confident that you have the information necessary.
Okay, thank you. I guess the only question, or not even a question, just a comment. In one of the conditions, if council so chooses to proceed with this and approve it for you, that the existing garage is to be used for personal storage only, like no business out of that building?
Absolutely not. It's actually for the storage of a larger RV, which won't fit the existing building. So that's what's.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Is council ready to deal with this application this evening? Yes. Okay, can I have a resolution to come out of variation board then, please?
Resolved that the public hearing for variation order 97 of 2023 be closed and the regular session of council be reconvened.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Boulanger seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. The council is ready to proceed. I will ask for the resolution for the variation order, please.
Whereas the applicant owner of tax roll number 29107 legally described as Lot 1, Plan 62653 and located at 191 Dunning Road has made application for variation order number 97 of 2023 from accessory height of 15 feet maximum to accessory height 19 feet maximum, from accessory unit area of 1,200 square feet to accessory unit area to 1,728 square feet. Purpose of the application was to vary the size and height of an existing accessory structure on the subject property through a minor building alteration renovation. Therefore, be it resolved, variation order 97 of 2023 be approved with the following conditions. The variance is limited to what is proposed within this application. Any changes in use, replacement, or further additions may require a new variance approval. 2, the applicant owner obtain all required permits from the Red River Planning District. 3, the existing garage be used for personal storage only.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Counselor Strang, Counselor Horvis seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, the next item we have, and before I get started with that, is our subdivision application. I do have some, I guess, notes here that I would like to go over.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'd like to declare a conflict for this
Okay.
application.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sutherland.
Thank you.
Okay, there are numerous people here this evening who wish to present on the next application that we're going to hear. And we may need to limit the time if you get a little carried away in your speaking notes. As I call individuals, I would ask that if any presenter before you has stated the same concerns, issues you have, if you could state same as previous presenter, we will move to the next presenter. I also want you to know that if you have submitted your comments in writing, council has received all of these comments, and if you plan to read these comments again, I ask that you keep it to a minimum amount of time, as there is a significant number of written submissions which council has reviewed, and you can also choose to say your written submission represents your comments. Lastly, I ask that everyone be respectful of council, administration, the planner, and each other. If need be, I will stop the meeting until everyone can be respectful. As there are many submissions, the other thing that I did want to comment, I would like everyone to know that as part of the public hearing process, those submissions need to be sent to the administration, who will place them on the agenda, and this makes sure all of council has opportunity to review them. In addition, some residents and the applicant's representative reached out to council members before the public hearing after it was advertised. Council does not discuss details of an application on items that are part of a public hearing outside of the public hearing in order to protect the fairness of the process. This is why some council members did not discuss this application with you when you approached or when you sent an email. I know I have numerous ones which I forwarded to the office. I did not contact anybody, and I did not get any contact via phone. It was all email, and I think there's a few councillors that were in the same position that I was. So with that, as I said, there are a number of people who want to present this evening, and the last thing I want to say, if somebody's name is not on my list and I do not call it, after I have everybody on my list that has spoken and those on Zoom that have spoken, I will ask if there's anybody in the building who did not have an opportunity to speak, because everybody does have an opportunity to speak on these applications. Oh, okay. Yeah, just reminded that the applicant's representative did not submit anything to council or members of council that I'm aware of. So just so that everybody knows that. So with that, I think I've gone over everything that I need to at this point in time. So I will ask for a resolution to go into the public hearing for subdivision file S23-3014.
Resolve, the regular meeting be adjourned and the public hearing be opened for S23-3014.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Bazarovic seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now the way this is going to work, I'm going to call those that are in favor and then those that are opposed. And I do have one name here that it's kind of just nothing is checked. Some are for info.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
first, we have a presentation.
Yeah, I was just gonna, I was gonna let him do it. Honest, I was gonna let him do it. It's just that I thought of it as looking over my list here. So there are some names on here that just have kind of a question mark, and some are just for info, but I will call all the names that are on my list. So with that, Femi, if you could please give us the information on this subdivision application.
Subdivision application S23 or 3014. The address is 6075 Edison Highway of plus 2 unaddressed parcels. Road number 4500, 4700, and 5100. The intent is to create 33 lots from 3 existing parcels of land. Lot sizes ranging from 2 acres to 3.36 acres in the AR agricultural restricted zone. This is the location map. It shows the extent boundaries of the subject site. And this is the subdivision application map as submitted by the applicant to RRPD. It shows the 33 lots being proposed. And this is the proposed lot table. It shows what the applicant property zone, AR. In the AR zone, the minimum lot area is 4 acres, and the minimum lot width is 198 feet. All the lots being proposed meets the lot width requirement of the zoning bylaw, but not the lot area requirement. RRPD analysis. The applicant proposes to create 33 lots between 2 acres and 3.36 acres in size on the south side of Wally Road. The subject proposal falls within the quadrants where infill lots are allowed, provided certain standards are met. That infill lots must be located along existing developed public roadways, and that the creation of lot sizes that reflect established size character of lots found along the existing roadway. Council should note that the intent is for Arden Street and Rika Road to be extended southwards to Church Road South. A piecemeal subdivision plan will meet the intent of the development plan, which is consistent with the spirit of orderly development. Council should also consider if the preferred option is for the applicant to submit multiple subdivision applications over a period of time, or if council believes one application as proposed at this time is appropriate. Both scenarios will result in the same subdivision layout. I'll see graphics below. It shows, this graphic arrow shows that Arden Street is being extended up to Church Road South, and that if you start creating those lots 1, 2, 3, 4 along that house meets the intent of the development plan. It shows Rika Road being extended and being connected to Church Road South, and lots 18, 20, 19, and 21 on that road too. This is the full built out in terms of all the lots as per the layout, and how it complies with meets the intent of the zoning, of the development plan. Similar subdivision approvals in the area. In 2017, the council approved 9 lots ranging from 2.1 acres to 2.4 acres in the AR zone north of Church Road. In 2018, council approved 18 lots ranging from 2 acres to 2.007 acres in the AR zone within the same area on Longmead Road. In 2022, council approved 20 lots ranging from 2 acres to 2.5 acres in the AR zone in the same area. RRPD is recommending approval subject to 7 conditions listed in the planner's report. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Femi. Are there questions for the planner from members of council? We're just going to see if we can keep that door closed halfway. We do have to keep it open because it is a public meeting, but I know with the voting going on, it's a little tough to hear. But yeah, so. Any questions for Femi from members of council? Okay, so I will start with my list, and the first name that I have is actually the applicant. I'm not sure if it's the actual property owner or Landmark Planning that is doing the presentation this evening. Go ahead.
Landmark Planning.
Okay, if you want to just come forward, please. It might be a little bit easier for everybody to hear if you're at the podium. Or do you have a PowerPoint?
I have a PowerPoint. Is it okay to make it from?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. Let's wait for Femi to
Yeah.
We have a time constraint on this PowerPoint, maybe?
Usually the applicant can take a little longer. It depends. I'm not exactly sure how much time. Andre, do you know how much time your presentation will take?
It's under 10 minutes.
Under 10 minutes, so.
Set up here so I'm not disturbing anyone. Perfect. So thanks for the opportunity to present to council this evening. If I need to speak up, just let me know. We can always use that outdoor voice. My name is Andre Friesen. I'm a planner with Landmark Planning and Design. I'm also joined by Mr. Jeff Dow, who's a hydrogeologist who's familiar with the area. He's here for backup if any questions come up. We're really excited to be here tonight. I've been working on this application for almost 4 years now with the property owner. He would love to be here, but he's watching from home. But otherwise, he would be with us here. So the presentation I have today provides some background information about the application, and then the intent is to demonstrate how the application can be accomplished to comply with the municipality's applicable planning policy and regulation. So the planner has already gone over a lot of this in detail. The subject property is 86 acres in size right now. It's frontage on Wally Road. There was a subdivision that created these lots on the east side of the track earlier this year. The proposed subdivision will extend Rica Road and Aiden Street to provide alternate routes and new modern roadways to access the residences in this area. If approved, these roads get put in by the developer and are paid by the developer. As part of the overall subdivision design, an engineered drainage plan will be required. We've heard concerns that there are drainage issues in the area. An engineered drainage plan will be very vital to correcting some of those concerns and making drainage better overall in that area. In similar fashion to what's already on the ground, ditches will be the main drainage mechanism. And when houses go in, if approved, lot grading plans will also be required. Wastewater will be handled by septic fields, and water will be provided by private wells. And as mentioned, Mr. Mel is here, but he's done a review and deemed there is capacity within the aquifer, or sufficient, more than sufficient capacity. So how did we get here today? It's important to remember that over the past century, the lands in this area have been subdivided many times to become what we currently have today. Initially conceived as river lots as shown on the plan from the 1930s, these river lots would be further subdivided, creating roads, right-of-ways, and lots that were no longer farm-based, but rural residential lots for residential purposes. Every time these lands were subdivided, using the planning policy and regulation in place at that time, new residents would establish themselves through the same process we are working through today. And I can assure you that some of the sentiments that are felt about this proposed subdivision were likely the sentiments that were felt back then as well. So over the last decade, Wally Road was established as a Rica Road and Aiden Street with rural residential lots and homes to follow. Now the vacant area we are discussing today between Wally Road to the north and Church Road to the south is the only area within all of South St. Clements where rural residential subdivisions have surrounded a small vacant agricultural land. To the north, rural residential lots on Wally Road, Rica and Aiden, are generally in the 4-acre range, created as per planning policy, what this planning policy allowed for decades ago. To the south, rural residential lots on Church Road are generally in the 2 to 4 acre range, with the 4 acre lots being created earlier than the 2 acre lots that were created using modern planning policy. The planner has already addressed these, but just to reiterate, there's numerous examples of where these policies have been applied within the South St. Clements area. So again, same designation, same zoning for these different sites. I guess it comes down to the development plan. The development plan is the overarching planning policy that either allows for subdivisions to occur or precludes them to occur. So, as mentioned, this parcel of land lies within an infill area where there are special policies that apply. And it's actually unique to the entire Red River Planning District plan. This is the only area where these infill policies are set forth for implementation. So one of the first policies that needs to be met is proposed infill lots must be located along an existing developed public roadway. So obviously Wally Road is that existing public roadway, and most of the lots that are being proposed would have frontage on that roadway. There are also two other roadways, 8th Street and Eureka Road, that already exist and have right-of-ways that have already been established to the south, allowing further extension through the subject property. I'm going to discuss this in the upcoming slides. The planner has already mentioned this, but if they were built and subdivided through separate applications, then lotting along them could follow with precise compliance of the policy. However, this would be impractical because these extensions and these roadways already exist and have already been contemplated for a long time. The next one is the proposed infill lots must be of a size that reflects the established size and character of the existing lots found along the same existing developed roadway. So in terms of character, the proposed lots should be in keeping with existing development on Wally Road, as can be seen by an aerial photo or just by driving or walking down the street. Almost every lot has been developed with a dwelling to one side on approximately 2 acres, then a vacant or primarily vacant adjacent 2 acres on the other side, forming a 4-acre property. Not the case in every single case, but the vast majority of them have been designed that way. So in keeping with our current and similar applications within the area, we are proposing 2-acre lots, which definitely differ in terms of lot size. They aren't 4-acre lots, as there are no, and there aren't any 2-acre lots on Wally at the moment. So with that, I've actually done a different kind of analysis that shows how this could be done. And I started the other end just to demonstrate, I didn't know that you were doing this in your presentation, but just to demonstrate that this can be done in a variety of different ways. So the first one would be opening up Eureka Road as an extension, and then extending the 2-acre lots from Church Road all the way to Wally Road, which would bring 2-acre lots to Wally Road at that location, and then also completing the development plan along Reback Road and extending 2-acre lots all the way to Wally Road again. The next subdivision that could take place would then extend 2-acre lots across the Wally Road frontage all the way, which would be in compliance with the development plan because those 2-acre lots would have existed under subdivision number 1. And then finally, at the end there, we would extend those lots back to Church Road. Again, 2-acre lots, and those exist along Wally Road now, and they would comply with the development plan as well as the new road and the proposed lots off of the proposed cul-de-sac. The next policy is proposed infill lots must be of sufficient size to accommodate on-site wastewater disposal and shall be designed in a manner that would facilitate the efficient future provision of piped municipal water and wastewater services. So every lot that we're proposing is at least 2 acres and at least 198 feet wide, so that complies. The next one after that is an odd policy, but I'll read it anyway. It says the proposed infill lots may be located between or as an extension of an existing group of non-farm residential lots. It should be separated from existing lots by no more than 100 meters on the same side of the existing developed public roadway. The word "may" in this policy suggests that it's provided as a guideline or a consideration. If "should" were used, it would be applicable almost all the time, and if "shall" or "must" was used instead of "may," it would have to be applicable. So this, again, doesn't really apply and is not applicable in this situation. The next one would be the configuration of the proposed infill lot should not impede or lessen the potential development for conservation subdivision design. Conservation subdivision design is mainly to protect natural features such as tree stands, rivers, or streams. In this case, the subdivision has been designed around these, so in that case, I would say it's compliant. The next policy would be the configuration of the proposed infill lots must accommodate extension public roadways per adopted concept plans or secondary plans. The slides I'm showing here are from a background study to a South St. Clement secondary plan. These are just one of several documents that show the extension of Eureka and Aiden to the south, as can be seen on the slide. So in terms of compliance with the development plan, this is a policy from the development plan, 1.5, interpretation of requirements. The objectives and policies found within Section 2, Section 3, Section 4, and the land use designation maps in Section 6 represent the legal content of this development plan. The interpretation of the development plan policies and land use designation maps is at the purview of the planning district board and/or its designate. So it's important to note that it's up to the planning district and to council to interpret their development plan and the policies of the development plan. Development plans are not intended to be rigid. They're visionary policy documents that allow for minor flexibility should an application generally be compliant with the plan's overall intent. So that's directly from the Red River Plan Master Plan. In terms of compliance with the zoning bylaw, as the plan already mentioned, we'll need lot size variances for the proposed lots. They do meet the minimum width for the AR zone, with all at least 190 feet or over. In terms of public engagement, an open house was held on February 13th at the Corpus Christi Church. There were roughly about 30 residents that attended, and the intent of this open house was to receive feedback on 2 conceptual subdivision plans being considered for the property. There was lots of feedback that was received. The main concern, at least in terms of what was brought to my attention, was about the creation of 2-acre lots on the property, as they would be different than those that are already established on the north side of Wally Road, which are 4 acres. People expressly did not want to see the subdivision at this location. 4 acres should be the only lot size allowed. This is based on planning policy from decades ago. That Wally Road would see increased use. That subdivision under 4 acres hadn't previously been allowed in this area. And there were also concerns about water supply, amongst others. That was kind of the general recap that I had. In saying that, there was some positive feedback that was received from some residents saying that they were waiting for the subdivision that was planned to occur, and this proposed subdivision would comply with what they were thinking would happen. And based on the feedback received at that open house, that's why we went with the plan that was chosen, the linear lots, instead of another design that featured cul-de-sacs. In terms of provincial comments, they weren't addressed by the planner, but the comments received were similar to those applications creating lots within the infill area of St. Clements, no different than the other applications that have been mentioned. There were no objections received from provincial departments that were close of this application, and the Red River Planning District recommends approval of the application. In terms of benefits, there would be 2 new roadways providing additional access that would split traffic to preferred destinations, reducing the overall use of Wally Road. Better drainage via engineered drainage plan and new drainage infrastructure. There would be an increase in tax revenue for the municipality. If the final built product on the lots plus the lot value itself would be similar to what we're seeing elsewhere, it would be valued at about $650,000. At the current mill rate, that would add up to roughly about $100,000 in additional tax revenue for the RM annually once completely built out. Next benefit would be more housing options for those in the RM looking to relocate or for new residents looking to put down roots. And then the final one is complete the development plan of the area, eliminating the uncertainty of what future uses would be. There's nothing else I can go to because now it's residential lots and it's not going to be used for something else. In terms of conclusion, the proposed development and subdivision generally complies with the development plans and is supported by the Red River Planning District. The proposed subdivision complies with the zoning bylaw regulation for site width, and as noted, will require site area variances. The proposed subdivision is in keeping with similar recent applications to create 2+ acre lots in South St. Clements. So thank you very much, Council, for the opportunity to present. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have, and again, really excited to be here. I'm working on this one for quite some time, so it's great to get into this stage.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions to the presenter from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Horvis.
Will the new road be paved, or?
Based on discussions with administration, it would be built to a similar real cross-section, so it would be gravel top, similar to other roads in the area.
Anything else from the members of council? Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to continue on my list here, and we'll we have quite a few presenters. So the next one I have is Susanna Rempel, and I believe that she is on Zoom. So Susanna, if you want to unmute yourself, please.
Hello?
Hello.
Go
Can you hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, we can, thank you, go ahead.
Okay. I actually didn't want to present. I just wanted to listen in.
Okay, I guess that's kind of not what we have on our list here, so, do you have any comments that you would like to put forward at this point in time?
I'm just going to say that I am for the subdivision,
Okay,
but I have no other comments.
okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, the next names I have, and some of these are for info and some say opposed and info, so I'm just going to go down the list and we'll see who is here and who isn't. Clinton and Margot Gurris. You're here.
We're opposed.
Anything else that you want to add at this point in time, or just any other comments?
I would just like to say that the comment about the majority of existing lots in the area being 4 acres with development on a 2-acre side, and a 2-acre side being left open is not the case along Wally or along Eden Street. There are 3 developed lots there where all the houses are in the middle of those lots. And quite a few of those, the lots along Wally, are developed in the same way, where there's either landscaping to identify that that lot will remain as a full piece, or that houses are built in the middle. I disagree with the statement that the majority of those lots are designed to be 2-acre split.
Okay, thank you for that, and I'm going to ask if anybody else is going to speak, if you could please come to the podium. It's a little bit hard for us to hear if you're at the back of the room, and so if there's any other comments, I'm going to ask you to come to the podium. The next name I have is Kendra Wilkes.
That's me. I'm really loud, so I'm sure you can hear me. I'm neighbors with Clint and Margot, and I also am in the middle of my 4.5-acre lot, and there's 3 lots along Aiden, and we all have drainage problems, and I understand that they're talking about fixing the drainage for the new subdivision, but I don't know how that's going to affect us because we're north of that, and unless they plan on doing the whole tracks, the railway tracks, the ditches along the railway tracks, we're going to continue to be underwater every spring and every rainy summer, and that's a big issue for us. And other than that, I did email you, so I'm sure I don't want to repeat everything. But what I would like to say is that having 2-acre lots backing onto my 4.5 acres is not what I want. And I'm totally opposed to a cul-de-sac in that little chunk of land from Aiden to the railway tracks. If they can do 4 acres going to the tracks, following our 3 properties and the ones on Church, then I'm for it, but other than that, I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Carolyn and Alan Conway. Are Carolyn or Alan Conway in the chamber? Okay, thank you.
Hi. On page 30, there's a letter from Katie Martin, and there she states that the Environment Act requires that the option for sewage disposal is limited to holding tank, and the installation of septic field is not permitted regardless of the size of the lot, and there is no provision in the legislation to vary this requirement. So that wasn't mentioned by the planner there. And also there's a letter from Tina, and she brings up a number of points. None of those are mentioned. So,
And who is that from?
Tina Harms, she's a land use specialist with Land Use and Ecosystem Resilience Branch.
So that was part of the Red River Planning District report.
Yes, it was included, it's page 47.
Thank you.
So if you guys could refer to that, would you want me to read the translation?
Yeah, Femi, can you please respond to that?
So
Initially, when we posted the report, we got feedback from environmental compliance, and the initial feedback from them was that it should be holding tank based on where it is located. But I got an email from Andrew, which says that this section of where this lot is located is outside where holding tanks should be the vehicles. So we had a revised feedback from environmental compliance. We said that septic field is what is required, and I made a revision to the report. I'm sure you have the initial report. I made a revision to the report, and it was sent to the RM, and that was what was posted. So the report you have, that would be the initial report that was posted before the revised comment from the environmental compliance.
Did you understand that?
No,
Okay, so originally, when the application that was made, and when the original information that came back from environmental compliance at the province of Manitoba, the planner has said that the environmental compliance had mistaken the area. We do have an area in the RM under the Red River Corridor requirements, which require holding tanks under no uncertain conditions. But this was outside the Red River Corridor area, from my understanding. They, after contacting environmental compliance, they provided a revision saying that it was okay to have septic fields on these properties.
So then it would be nice to have that in the packet.
That's been revised and it was published as part of this, is what the planner
But
just
this
said.
letter that was sent from Tina Harms was not in the original packet, it was just sent the last few days.
It's not old.
No.
So it's just the same thing. So the way the process works is when we have a subdivision application, it's circulated to government agencies. So those comments are either saved on the drive or a paper copy. So when that agricultural comments came from the Manitoba Agriculture, the paper copy was saved on the folder itself, in the file. But there wasn't anything on the set drive, and most of that is where I work from. So I didn't say that. And as soon as I got the revised comment from Tina from Agriculture, I revised the whole package and I sent it.
You're talking about FIPA. Was there a FIPA request?
No. I said as soon as I got the revised comment from Manitoba Agriculture, I revised the whole package and I sent it back. Yeah.
So when did you receive the revised comments, Benny?
It wasn't a revised comment, but I think somebody had complained to Tina that your comments were not on the package. So Tina sent it to me directly, so I included it in the report.
Okay.
So it's in the package.
That was just sent out very recently. But she makes it very clear that that whole area, because it's being farmed currently, puts it in a different ballpark than if it had been vacant land.
So what I'm seeing here is that you downloaded the original package that was posted. Yeah, that was the one you downloaded. So there was a revised package that was sent to the RM, which was posted on our website and on the RM's website.
So the revised one, was there other stuff that was revised other than that letter?
They were all included in the revised package.
So it would be nice if we had sent it to everybody.
No, that's not possible.
This is the revised version. The revised version, when was this posted in the revised version? At the time of posting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what they did, what you had was an earlier version that was available for information purposes until the public package that was published.
I guess the one that was published on the RRPD website was the one that she downloaded. It was after that we took that down and we published the correct one, the one that has all the information.
Okay. But you corrected that before the public hearing package was posted.
Exactly.
So you had information on the Red River Planning District website describing the project and so forth, and as you were working on it, but before the public hearing, which is the actual report, that was published for this public hearing, there wasn't any more revisions. It was a revised version.
No. So there was one that was published on the regular planning, but not on the RM's website. It was at that stage that we had a revised comment from Tina and from CEC. Then I had to take that down, included all the comments, and
And that was-
posted.
And then when the RM published it for the public hearing, that was the last version.
When did you put Tina's letter in? Was this a couple of days ago?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
So all of us that downloaded the package downloaded the wrong one.
The answer is Tina's letter went in on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's less than a week.
So was council aware of that? We were given the wrong information.
Council also gets the information when it goes public on Thursday before the public hearing is scheduled. That's when council gets it. So council looks at the revised version.
But we didn't know there was a revised version. We just thought there was one letter missing that we had downloaded. We didn't realize the rest of it.
What, how much was revised? Just the letter?
I included the revised comment from CEC saying that they will allow a safety field instead of a holding tax. And then I included just the comment from Manitoba Agriculture saying that it wasn't an objection, it was just a suggestion. Yes.
So those
They
are
were
the two
just,
things that
they
were
were
added.
not comments to object. Yeah.
But then the letter from Tina was still added, right? So that's, and she makes all these points about how the land is agricultural, and because it's being farmed, it doesn't, all these things don't apply.
So I have the letter right here up on the screen. That was submitted August 31st, is that the one? Okay. From Tina Harms, is that the one we're talking about?
August or September.
September.
September. That's
She originally submitted it on 31st to regular district plan.
Yeah. and it
Yeah,
didn't
that's
go
the
in.
August 31st one.
It didn't get into the
yeah,
package.
that's, yeah.
For some
Somehow.
reason.
Somehow it was not
Delayed.
included.
And then there's the September 19th before that.
Yes.
Please see below the comments that were submitted on behalf of Manitoba Agriculture for proposed subdivision. I just want to ensure that our comments are included for council and the board consideration. So on September 19th, she submitted the comments which were from August 31st.
Exactly.
And so they were received on August 31st,
To me,
but weren't included in that original package.
Exactly.
And so when she submitted it on the 19th, what I'm understanding, then you put it into the package and uploaded it.
I replied, same, almost like an hour later.
Okay, so on August 31st, she said that they were okay with this.
No.
No.
she didn't.
No.
She had a lot to say against it.
So,
Entirely opposed.
Yes.
it wasn't a rejection. If you look at the comment, it's, let's see one second.
You're doing good.
So the comment from agriculture wasn't an objection. It only says that we recommend that the proposed subdivision be reconfigured. It's on page 6.
Page 6 of your report?
Yes. Under circulation and comments. Do
Okay.
you want me to share?
Yeah, please share it there because there are people on Zoom, so we could all see. Okay, so your revised comments were put into your report,
Yes.
and you kept the original email to show for full disclosure, but you received the revised comments. but they're not in the email they were putting in.
It's at the bottom.
It's at the bottom of the email?
Yeah.
Okay. So Manitoba Agriculture's comments are identified here in the report map, where it says, we recommend the proposed subdivision be reconfigured more closely aligned with the agricultural restricted policies of the conservation subdivision. The planning district should verify that there is sufficient demonstrated demand to ensure compliance. And so they're just recommending, as Penny said. They're not objecting.
But if they're recommending it more closely, they're not exactly approving it, are they? Is that-
They're not there to approve. They provide recommendations or object.
Is that the same letter that? That's just the notes, that's not the letter.
I can go to the letter, it says the same thing.
Yeah, let's go to the letters so everybody.
Yeah, maybe the letter should be read out loud so everybody knows what it is.
Okay, I want to bring it back. I don't want everybody talking. Let us see if we can find the letter from, I guess it is from Agriculture, and see where we go with that, please. Go ahead, Femi.
So this is the letter here from Tina. It says, I've reviewed the proposed subdivision on behalf of Manitoba Agriculture. The subdivision request proposes to subdivide actively cultivated 17.75 acre parcel into 33 residential lots ranging from 2.01 acre to 3.36 acres within a designated agricultural restricted area under the regular planning district development plan. The proposed subdivision application within the south sectarian boundary area describes the activities in infill development. Infill development as defined within the development plans refers to new development within existing built-up areas on land which are currently vacant or underutilized and is considered as both neighborhood and individual lot bases. As the proposed subdivision parcel represents a full agricultural parcel, approximately 80 acres, and is under annual cultivation, this proposal does not meet the intent of the definition within the development plan. While subdivision of rural residential can be considered under policy 4.2.11, indications for a minimum 4 acre lot size are prescribed in the development plan. Infill development requirements under policy 4.2.11.1.5 states the configuration of proposed infill lots should not impede or lessen potential for conservation subdivision design and development. Subdivision design under policy 4.2.11.2.3 must designate a minimum of 60% of gross development area as open space, and that will protect from development through conservation agreement, dedication to the Canada Land Conservancy, as similar organization dedicating as public reserve or similar means deemed acceptable to council. Open space must connect with the existing or proposed open space appointing development area and should include natural areas, wildlife habitats, environmental sensitive areas, wetland floodplains, steep slopes, mature trees, active recreation areas, and farmlands. And the zone open space with long-term development constraint as part of the agreement attached for rezoning. Open space as common elements within a brownland, the condominium plans or public reserve, and 4.2.11.2.4 protect and preserve farmland natural features such as creeks, substantial mature tree stands, and integrate set their sites into the design as appropriate. So Tina went ahead to list some of the other policies for 4.2 to provide for a variety of lot sizes to accommodate residential development and small-scale agricultural operations on the same lot. 4.2C to discourage land use practices which will render agricultural land less productive or have an inflating effect on land assessment and taxation. And 4.2.5 to maintain rural character of the municipality for the benefit and long-term interest of the agricultural sector. The proposed subdivision appears to be consistent with policy 4.2.2, land uses which would interfere with agricultural production or which would have an inflammatory effect on land values shall be avoided. We recommend that the proposed subdivision be reconfigured to more closely align with agricultural restricted policies or the conservation subdivision design. The planning usage should verify that there is a sufficient demonstration demands to ensure compliance with policy 4.2.4.1 of the development plan. That's the email from Tina. There wasn't anywhere in this email that talks about whether it should be rejected. Rather, it was more like a recommendation as to how council can proceed.
So it was an interpretation of conservation as to the policies of the development plan.
Yeah.
And that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that's also the requirement for Red River Planning to interpret those policies in the report you just provided us?
That would be correct.
Ma'am, sir, you haven't been recognized
Well,
by the chair?
She had actually mentioned both of them.
Oh,
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could just identify
Just wanted to
yourself for the
clarify.
record, because we are being taped this evening.
Sorry.
I have a question.
Can you please identify yourself for the record?
Sorry, Alan Conway.
Thank you.
I live on Ricker Road, south of Wally. I just have a question. The subdivision is approximately maybe 600 feet wide from Wally to the end of the subdivision. If you're driving down Wally, the lots are quite long. But the last 400 feet on Aiden and Marvin, just about 400 feet on this very heavy tree. And I'm just wondering, I can see how you can force the developer to pay for the one on his land, but what about the last 400 feet? Is that going to be paid by the taxpayer? And then another suggestion is that one road goes through before he sells the lot.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask you again, where are you talking about, Rita Road or Aiden?
So he's talking about both of them, Rika Road and Aiden. If the land developer is extending them
to the south,
they don't go right to church.
His land doesn't go all the way through to Church Road. Is he going to be paying for that part that isn't his as well? The 400 or 200?
Yes, they're required to pay that.
Because when we put up, we had to put in the other way, going north on Rika and Aiden. We had to pay for it. So we're just wondering why the person who did the land on Church Road didn't have to put in the roads. This seems kind of odd.
The policy in the RM had been that the RM of St. Clement's or the municipality can ask for a road taking. The road is not required to be paved unless there was going to be some properties fronting on that road or that were needed to be able to subdivide. If you look at Aiden Street, those properties needed access off of Aiden Street, so there was a requirement to pave or build the road.
Right.
Otherwise, a road taking is taken as part of the land requirement. So when somebody comes in for a subdivision, the municipality can ask for land for future roadways.
Also, they didn't actually have to pay for the road.
They didn't have to pave it because there was no need for the road to be built. Because when was that built at that time? All those people, the people on Church Road didn't need access to that road, but the road was designated under the RM's needs. And so when future subdivisions such as this come forward, you already have a road that gives you the ability to connect.
So the last 400 feet will be paid by the developer?
Correct. So this part here will be paid by the developer.
Okay. Now, I guess my husband's just a bit nervous that he might find a way out of that because it wasn't his.
Well, if they don't pave it, then they don't have access.
So then we can
We'll build it is better.
Pay for it.
Pay for it.
That's a good word, pay.
Okay, I'm going to keep going down my list here. I have, the next names I have is Ernest Kozlowski and Brian Glaze. Anybody in the audience? Do one or both of you want to come forward to the podium and share your thoughts?
I'm okay. I'm not for this.
Okay, and who is that?
That's Brian Glaze.
Thank you. And Ernest Kozlowski, have you anything that you want to add?
I was just going to comment on the fact that they were talking about subdividing the 4-acre lots, and there's no way that mine can be subdivided because I have no access to the other part. So I'd like to see them as 4-acre lots.
And whereabouts are you?
Off Rebec Road.
Okay.
The north side of Wally.
The north side of Wally on Rebec.
So all those 4 acres.
Okay, so one of the 2 lots just at the end of Wally Road, Wally and Rebec?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were all done as one subdivision together.
Right. Yeah, that was a number of years ago. Okay, anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, other than you're opposed to it.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, the next name I have is Penny Washaliston. Sorry if I murdered that pronunciation, I apologize.
Yes, I'd like to say a few things.
Sure, if you want to come to the podium, it's just easier for us to hear you when you're standing there.
I did submit a letter, so I'm not going to go through all of that.
Okay.
And, I would like to have a couple questions, though, as far as completely opposed to the idea of 2-acre lots. That's not why several of us are out there now. They may have originally been planned that way when the original people built there, with thoughts of someday subdividing. There is only one couple left on that road that originally built there. And since then, several different people have moved in, and nobody wants 2-acre lots. They moved there for 4-acre lots. The whole area a lot of the area may be being developed into 2-acre lots, and to say that nobody wants 4-acre lots, to me, is not a fact. People still want more acreage, and they're expecting to be able to buy it in the area. There's nothing coming available in 4-acre lots. You guys are pumping through 2-acre, 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 and not putting any 4 acres in. Which, this is a prime example. This road still exists with 4-acre lots. That's the bylaw that's existing. Nobody's asking or saying that it shouldn't be developed. We realize that, but we don't want 2-acre lots there because of the adjacent road existing with 4 acres. Saying that subdivision, they'll do a piecemeal subdivision, is a way skirting around the idea of getting out of keeping 4-acre lots there. They're still going to be developing on Wally Road, which exists 4-acre lots. It doesn't matter if they bring in the 2-acre lots. They're still skirting around the idea. The other thing is, I'd like to know what regulations are there going to be in size and structure of properties to be built there. Is it going to be a 800 square foot house? Is it going to devalue the properties there or make them better? Nobody seems to be saying anything about that. What is the timeline to have these places finished, or do they just stay a mess for the next 10 years? Because there are places in the area that aren't getting established in a timely manner. Things are tough all over, I agree. Finish the outside of your house before the inside. Because everybody has to look at that, and nobody seems to be concerned about that. My other concern is, well, where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought. But I would say that's pretty much it. The drainage has always been an issue. We did a huge subdivision application, was tried 4 years ago. I think it was off the back end of Rebec Road heading north. People on Rebec who own that wanted to subdivide.
At the end of
It extends all the way through to the tracks, I believe, right?
Yeah. Or something like that.
Yeah, well, they wanted to subdivide back there. We all came in with the same complaints that have never been addressed. the road condition, the drainage situation. That was turned down. Even Doug Drobot, that used to be on council here, and a couple other fellows on council said the same thing. The road was never developed properly for that kind of traffic. Oh, one more thing. Somebody had counters down roads on Rebec and Wally. I'm not sure if it was the RM. I don't know who puts it out there. The place they put it in on Wally Road was before the company that has trucks there now, which no problem with the trucks, but the counter would have been catching 8 people coming into work, 8 trucks leaving, 8 trucks coming in, 8 cars going out. That's half of the people on that road. There's twice as much traffic being accounted for on the counters. I don't know who, does anybody know who would have been doing the counting on that road?
Probably the RM looking at doing.
Like the traffic flow. Well, it's totally incorrect if that's what they were going with, because the very beginning of the road gets all the traffic, and the back end of the road sees half of that. So that's just incorrect to be calculating it that way. That the whole road is getting full traffic.
Depends the purpose that Public Works was applying.
Well, for sure. I don't know what they were taking the traffic count for.
Well, it had nothing to do with this subdivision.
Oh, okay, well, that's, everybody wanted to know that, so that's good to know, because everybody was in question about that, why there was a counter there.
It's probably as part of our road planning that the Public Works does for the next 20 years of road planning.
Well, that's good to know, because as I say, everybody was very concerned that they were getting an inaccurate count on that road. But I think that's about all. Again, my letter was submitted, so
Yes,
thank
we
you
all
for your
have
time.
that in our packages.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have, the next name on my list is Dan and Debbie Wee.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Good to see you tonight. I'm from Church Road. My name's Dan Wee. I completely oppose any development looking at a subdivision. I don't believe in 2-acre or 4-acre lots based on what we received from Tina Harms. She's got some pretty damning stuff on there that you kind of played down, in my opinion. You guys read that. She wants to keep that as a farmland. And that's the way it should be, because that's what's been written there. What I'm seeing in this RM is a whole lot of developers really putting a lot of pressure on, I think, this council to pump out, more and more properties. We saw Dunning Road transfer station suddenly pop up as a development beside it. All of a sudden, we can't take convertibles there anymore. And it's a developer squeezing people's arms. And I don't think that's right, how that's going. And I've just got some few questions about Red River Planning Board, because I'm the guy that was looking over that initial package, and I thought, geez, that's weird that, Manitoba Agriculture's not putting some in there, and I had to get a hold of her. And, this fellow never even put it as revised. So no wonder why people got wrong packages. That's wrong. You guys probably even got the wrong packages initially, I don't know. But that doesn't feel good when we're not sure, if the right information is getting out there. And I know, thank you, Mr. Joshi, for asking those questions to the planning board. But, people just don't know what's going on. When packages, it doesn't even say, it should say, this is revised as a blah blah, not nothing on the planning board. So anyways, so we're seeing all these subdivisions and buildings coming up and all these things, and I think we're getting a lot of pressure to do this. We're not looking at things like green space. We still are an agricultural area, I believe, even though it says we probably aren't, but we are. So I'm really feeling that these developers are pushing us hard, and I feel like Red River Planning Board is just a tool of their instrument, and I'm looking at it and going, I don't think we're paying taxes to have them be the developer's best friend. So I'm going, what's going on here? And when I see we're voters, we're taxpayers, a lot of us moved out here to kind of live a semi-rural life. And, you want to drop in all these, 33 homes. And I had somebody telling me, we got such a housing crisis in Canada. Well, they're not going to be living there. I work in social housing. That's not where people are going to be going. So, that's not an argument. The argument is I feel that developers are really riding us in this RM. and putting a lot of pressure on us to do these things. Yeah, there's money, people are rolling around with bags full of money, and I guess people are biting, but that's wrong. And you see that letter from Tina Harms in the middle, nail it right there. Yeah, and it's very confusing because then you have Manitoba talking about septic fields and holding tanks, and people don't know what's going on because the package hasn't been manipulated, and people can't see it. And then they feel embarrassed when they're standing up here and being told, oh yeah, we got back to people, and that nothing was really written in this Red River Planning Board package. So I think that this whole thing has been all over the place. And I gotta admit, landmark planning, I went to that thing. I had two options. Either, this big cul-de-sac with all these houses, or a smaller bunch. There was no thing saying, oh, if you don't really like this, you should say something. So I don't really like how that letter was kind of framed in that package. So all in all, I totally oppose this because what I'm seeing is another attempt to create more subdivisions. I was opposed to extending that down Church Road because some of that property is underwater pretty much because there's a creek there. But what I'm hearing from Landmark is like, oh, you guys have approved this stuff in the past, so you have to approve it again. Well, I don't think that's right. Nobody should be bullying mayor and council to say, okay, that stuff was approved in the past, now you have to do it for us. That's wrong. We're here to support you. We pay taxes, we also vote for you guys. We're here to support you. And what you need to say is say, forget it, this is wrong. This is a full-blown subdivision. This is infill. Infill is like an isolated lot. Fill that in, a few isolated lots. But this is full-blown subdivision, 33. That's wrong. That's totally wrong. Any questions for me?
No, not for you. You might have some more for us after.
Yeah, I think I will.
Okay, and I'm Debbie. I live at 13 Church Road, and I wanted to speak on what Kendra was talking about, because she lives on kind of the other side from me. And drainage is a huge issue. Like in spring of 2022, I called the RM, and I'm like, my house is going to be flooding soon, overland flooding. And you know what? When that Guns Creek, it took out Highway 202, it was a blessing in disguise. Because all of a sudden, the water started receding in my backyard, and I'm like, oh, we're not going to flood. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. And I know you guys have probably made improvements to Highway 202, and it took 5 months to rebuild it. And thank God it was finally rebuilt. But building all these 2-acre lots, where's all the water going to go? Because down Church Road, there's a 2-acre lot. That guy put on about 4 feet of soil on his yard. And okay, his house is like on a hill now. If everyone starts putting their house on a hill, Guns Creek can only take so much drainage. And we're just going to be seeing overland flooding. So that's one of my concerns. The other concern I have is this whole infill lot thing. How do you put a bay or a cul-de-sac off of Aiden Road and say that's okay? That's not an existing road now. You can't put 5 houses back there. And all the other ones on Eden go all the way down to the railroad tracks, 4 acres back. So there's no way we should fit these 5 houses off of Aiden Road on one side of it and 3 houses right behind 243 Church Road on the other side. That's just wrong. Those way too small, not enough room for drainage, and you're building a new cul-de-sac. That's not an existing road, so that's not infill. That's what I have to say about that. So I'm totally opposed to this. That's way too many small lots, and we need to learn that we have drainage issues. You can't just keep putting in ditches and going to Guns Creek. It's not going to work for very long. And anyways, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, the next name I have on my list here is Craig Henderson.
There's been a long-standing bias demonstrated in public meetings and attempts at development plan amendment bylaws by some St. Clements councillors and a former mayor that all of South St. Clements should be divided into 2-acre lots. Some of those same elected officials have subdivided land into 2-acre lots, which was made possible by their own legislative efforts. In 2014, the board of the Red River Planning District, which is made up of mayors and council from St. Clements and 4 other municipalities, passed development plan amendment bylaw 21914, which in section 2 said, on the west side of the floodway within the rural municipality of St. Clement, lot sizes may generally be 2 acres, when the proposed lots have a frontage on an existing road. The Minister of Municipal Government, when approving bylaw 21914, deleted section 2 and did not allow subdivision of 2-acre lots as proposed by the bylaw. This clearly indicates that the unconditional subdivision of lots of 2 acres in South St. Clement was not approved by the provincial government. Subsequently, the bylaw 24516 was passed and approved by the province, which became the text of section 4.2.11.1 of the development plan 27219. That allowed 2-acre lots in South St. Clement with a number of conditions. It appears that the RRPD in the subdivision package S23-3014 is working to circumvent these conditions to subdivide 2-acre lots. First, in section 4.2.11.1, it refers to 2-acre lots being allowed as infill residential lots, when by definition in the development plan, these lots are not infill lots. On this point, Manitoba Agriculture agrees in their letter in the subdivision package. The subdivision does not comply with section 4.2.11.1.1 because many of the infill lots are not along an existing roadway. The subdivision does not comply with section 4.2.11.1.2 because the lots are not the same size or character of the existing lots found along Wally Road. The subdivision does not comply with section 4.2.11.1.4 because there are no non-farm residential lots within 100 meters on the same side of the road. The RRPD seems to be bending over backwards trying to reason away these requirements. You will note that, in the subdivision package, the RRPD specifically notes that the lots are not in compliance for lot size. The RRP suggests that section 4.2.11.1.4 that would require lots of the same size on the same side of Wally Road could be circumvented by first subdividing a lot on Rebed Road. And section 4.2.11.1.1, which requires the 2-acre lot to be on an existing road, could be circumvented by subdividing those lots on Aiden and Reeker Road once these sections of road were constructed. Neither of these options comply with the intent of the development plan. The RRP, although they suggest that the subdivision could be approved with these conditions, does not include either of these conditions in section 7 recommended conditions of the subdivision package. The RRPD is obviously being guided by Landmark Planning, who is working with the landowner that wants to subdivide. As Landmark also suggests, this is a multi-step subdivision theory to circumvent conditions of the development plan and the subdivision package. Landmark is so disingenuous in their attempt to further their interest in those of their customers that they suggest 3 4-acre lots on Wally Road with a tree line down the middle constitute lots of the same character as the proposed subdivision of 33 lots, most of which are close to 2 acres in size. It is important to note that Manitoba Agriculture in their letter on page 47 of the subdivision package does not approve of this subdivision in any way, saying it is non-compliant with the development plan. Manitoba Agriculture does not even agree that this is infill housing as required by 4.2.11.1 unless the definition of infill from the development plan confirms that it is not in compliance. I would suggest that Council carefully considers the letter from Manitoba Agriculture before making any decision. Manitoba Agriculture stated in their letter 9 different sections of the development plan that this subdivision is not compliant with. 4.2.11 because this is not infill housing. 4.2.11.1.5 because the configuration of the lots impedes conservation subdivision. 4.2.11.2.3 and 4.2.11.2.4 because current productive farmland is not being protected. 4.2.B, 4.2.C, and 4.2.F because the stated objectives of the AR zone are not being met. And 4.2.2 because it interferes with the agricultural land that has an inflationary effect on land values. These are all requirements in the AR section. Why are we listening to this stuff? I'll be brief on the next point because I'm aware it does not directly impact this subdivision decision by the letter of law, but really needs to be considered by responsible officials presiding over development. The RRPD has a drinking water plan dating back to 2014 that does not define the capacity, I say that again, capacity of the aquifer, from which we all get our water, despite the fact that the Planning Act section 51(1.1)(a) says the existing municipal drinking water and wastewater services must have sufficient capacity to accommodate any projected development set out in the development plan. Unfortunately, this has been offloaded to the provincial government because they approved the drinking water plan without defining capacity, in which they erred. We keep hearing that there's lots of water when subdivisions are proposed, but these statements are only about flow measurements from wells and in no way state the capacity of the aquifer. All the wells in the entire capital region get their water from one aquifer. When its capacity is exceeded, wells will start going dry. I would suggest that we need to step on it, fund the necessary study to determine the capacity of the aquifer, rather than just proceeding with development until it impacts the water supply of the residents of St. Clements and other municipalities in the capital region. I think the council and mayor need to consider that adjacent residents to this subdivision, because most of them oppose the subdivision. Development plans and zoning bylaws exist to control development so that it is acceptable to local residents. If only the opinions of those that wish to subdivide were considered, there would be no need for regulatory control on developments. I've seen a consistent bias on the part of the RM of St. Clements for 2-acre lots in South St. Clements. Now you have residents standing up saying, no, we do not want 2-acre lots here, and their opinion is supported by the development plan. I assure you that should this subdivision be approved, it will be brought before the municipal board, and it appears we have a pretty good case to have the approval canceled with all the reasons that it does not comply with the development plan. Also, we live in a democracy. You can be sure there will be opposition to these council members that vote for this subdivision by this group of people who moved to the area because of the 4-acre lots. They should reasonably be allowed to live in a neighborhood that is of the same character that it was when they purchased their property. There are exponentially more residents in South St. Clements that are not subdividing their land than there are those that are subdividing their land. In that situation lies an obvious political opportunity to remove councillors that are pushing 2-acre subdivision against the will of residents of South St. Clements. In conclusion, I think that Albert should not be too happy with the planner he hired who created this proposed subdivision plan that is so non-compliant with the development plan, and the council should do the job and reject this configuration of the subdivision for its non-compliance with the development plan, especially in the face of local opposition. That is all.
Okay, the next name I have on my list is Glenn Hoffman.
I oppose it, and I agree with everything that's been said just now. I'll stick with that.
Thank you. Pamela Buxton.
That would be me. I agree with everything that's being said. I am very much opposed. We are newer to the area than some of the residents here. But I will say on my property, only about 3 acres are homestead, but the other 2 acres are an active bee colony. So changing the whole subdivision over there and changing the main food support for these bees would be affecting our honey and the income of the farmer and the apiarist on that property.
Thank you. Okay, John Buxton, do you have anything you want to add?
In that lot that is being talking about subdivided, every spring for the past 4 years that I've lived in this area, I see possibly thousands of Canadian geese using that land to hatch their young. And by adding all these housings and subdivisions, you're taking away the ability for these geese to hatch their young in that space. And I am fully against this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, the next names I have are Jeff and Amanda McDonald.
Well, that would be us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want to just stand up and
Sure.
maybe come forward? I know it's a little
Want me to
hard
come
on
over there
that
with my
side.
dad knee?
We can hear you.
I think we're the longest residents on Wally Road, been here for about 33 years. I knew one day this was coming, right? It's a beautiful place to live. And I just feel that I've always expected the 4-acre lots to come up one day. And I mean, it's gonna happen. And I just feel that going to the 2-acre lots is, I think it's selfish. And it's just a beautiful area. And I'd like you guys, I mean, again, I truly know the subdivision's gonna happen, but I just really need you to consider the 2-acre lots. It's just, I just absolutely think it would wreck that area. So, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you for that, Jeff. I think I need to go to my Zoom now, so if someone can please share their screen with me.
One person, that was Sonia Lusner.
Okay, I'm looking for Kelsey Kasprick. Not there?
I think she was, or
She was earlier, yes. Okay, so I may come back to her. The next one is not on Zoom. Ian Odger?
He left.
He left?
He signed in and he had to go.
Okay, so then the next name I have is the lady on Zoom, Sonia Newsler. Sonia, if you just want to unmute yourself and give us
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for newborn, so this is going to be quick. Because she's okay right now, but she might start screaming. All I really want to say is, do you guys read the submissions when you reply with the Zoom attendance notes? Like, do you read the notes?
I believe on yours that we did have some notes. I'm just looking for, for the actual paper.
Yeah, because I had time, so I wrote my comments in there. So I don't want to like reiterate them if you already have read them, so I won't bother. I think some of my biggest points are that I know the developer is trying to get the best bang for his buck on this land, but it doesn't really, the comparisons that he showed are like smaller lots. They end up in a 2-acre lot, it's a square lot. But on the 2-acre lots that he's proposing, they're very narrow and very long. So they don't really fit with the existing comparisons that he's used, because these are like double deep. It would be like if you look from above from the comparison slide, and I can't remember what it's called anymore because I was reading my baby when I read it, so I don't have the title of the slideshow, but if you look from above, it doesn't match the aesthetic of the surrounding neighborhood. And his points about 4-acre lots being based on decades old, whatever, it's not really. It's based on existing land right now, and his argument that we could subdivide to 2 acres if we want, that's also based on an application for variance and approval by council. That isn't a given. That isn't an argument you should be able to use, because it's not, unless you're going to approve everybody on Wally without having to apply. That's not a fair argument. There is plenty of lots for sale. There's so many. So putting 2 acres in here isn't going to be that beneficial for us. Like for the tax money, sorry, I'm tripping over my words because I'm trying to rush. In regards to the tax revenue, there's going to be way more drainage, there's going to be way more road repairs, garbage pickup, maybe lights going in. There's going to be a lot of costs associated to the RM with these lots going in, and I'm assuming that any extra revenue, like the land right now has tax revenue. So, I mean, how much really is the RM going to pocket after expenses on these extra lots at 2 acres versus 4 acres? Also, they note that their plan is, in their words, quote, generally compliant, or generally complies. I work with legislation and regulation at a federal level all the time, and I would never accept anything that was, quote, generally compliant. It's not compliant, period. And right now, there's already drainage issues, and there's going to be road issues. This would just be a nightmare for everybody involved, for really no benefit to anybody except the land developer / owner. Yeah, I think that's my additional comments from listening to the developer.
Okay, thank you for
Thank
that,
you.
Sonia. And just so you know, we do have all your comments that you put when you were, I guess, putting your name forward to speak this evening. We do have your comments in our packages.
Okay, great, yeah, because I think that having like an environmental land assessment or environmental assessment done should be like top priority. This is a huge piece of land. There's got to be a lot of fauna and flora that we don't even know about utilizing this area and the area just surrounding it. So if you start developing, like the gentleman that you mentioned, geese, like this is gonna impact the natural area greatly. There's a creek right there that many species are dependent on, and jamming a bunch of houses around it is not gonna help. And the septic field question is still standing in my mind. Like, I don't know where that stands. I thought they weren't allowed to put them in, but maybe they are. But that causes a whole bunch of other problems in my mind when you have skinny lots lined up in a row with a ton of septic fields all along it.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Sorry, I guess now I'm done.
No, I'm just gonna ask our CAO to comment on the septic fields that you mentioned there.
Ma'am, the Red River Planning Report itself identifies comments from various agencies. So part of the circulation that Red River does is that they circulate these to the various agencies of the province of Manitoba who provide their comments. They either provide recommendations, as was being addressed by several of the speakers today, such as the Manitoba Agriculture, but you also receive information from Manitoba Infrastructure, Manitoba Conservation and Climate, Manitoba Environment, Climate and Parks, as well as Manitoba Historic Resources, all with their specialized areas, as well as Winnipeg Land Titles and as well as the Arm of St. Clements. In response to this, Manitoba Conservation says the 32 lots proposed on section S23 3014 fall east of the railway plan 1770 on the east side of the parcels is outside of the Red River Corridor. The Red River Corridor is where it was restricted as per provincial legislation where no septic fields are allowed. So this area is outside the Red River Corridor as identified by Manitoba Conservation and Climate. It says that Manitoba Municipal Relations, which is also part of the provincial site, on-site wastewater management system regulations, Manitoba Environmental Compliance and Enforcement would allow septic field to be installed on those lots, the 32 lots, as proposed. Any subdivision revisions to the lot size and width will need to be submitted for review. So any changes would have to go back to them. Portions of roll 4700 and 4500 that fall on the west side of the railway plan are within the Red River Corridor. So they said portions of those parts are within the Red River Corridor, so those may require. That will go as part of the review by Manitoba Conservation when development occurs on those parcels.
Okay, so then that's likely going to happen. Those will likely have to have holding tanks then, at a minimum.
The ones where Manitoba
Which
Conservation...
you won't know until...
Yeah, Manitoba
Sorry.
Conservation will take a look at those, and when they go to build, they'll make the decision whether they are allowed to have a septic field or be required to have a holding tank. Also, there was comments from Environmental, Climate and Parks, which dealt with the issues of the subdivision development drainage plan and engineered plan and engineered site plan requirements. They said all those requirements are going to be required as part of the subdivision approval. And they also said a water rights license to construct water control works will be needed as well by the developer. So that's for those drainage works.
So if you approve this ahead of time and they don't comply with that, do you revoke the approval in the event that you even approve this crazy idea?
I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well, you see what I'm saying, right? You can't
Yes, I do. I
vote
do
that
understand.
until they start.
If the development has been, if the subdivision gets approved, they are required to meet environmental, climate, and parks, Manitoba Conservation and Climate, as well as medical infrastructure, as well as agriculture, any other requirements that may be imposed by the province. And although the land is subdivided, they must still comply. And usually there is an engineering solution that they would have to deploy, which may be sometimes more expensive. But at the end of the day, the requirements of any subdivision, and correct me, Mr. Planner, is that when you subdivide land, you are not allowed to negatively impact other lands from drainage from your property. That's why engineered drainage plans are required, so that the drainage is kept at a positive level to what was originally there when the land was undeveloped. So that is all part of the requirements. So they will take a look at it, and the engineers will have to design that. That becomes part of the requirement.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
What you just,
Hang on,
For the
ma'am.
drainage, oh, sorry, is that council?
No, that's one of the people in the audience, so keep
But
going.
we're still dealing with you, madam.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's okay, they can ask.
Process-wise, we're going to deal with you first, ma'am, and then we'll go to the rest.
Sorry, it's really hard to read the room from on the phone. So that's drainage though, but that doesn't answer like any septic or infrastructure or road problems or anything like that. Like, it seems like approving this comes with a ton of if-thens that if they're not complied with could cause a bunch of issues for existing landowners. And again, it's only gonna benefit the developer and the land, and not really the RM, and the landowner right now. I guess that's what I'm trying to
So
do,
let me
sorry, I'm
just-
tripping over my words, but what I'm saying is, you know,
Completely understand, ma'am.
there's a big risk here. There's a big risk here to a bunch of different areas. Our property values are gonna go down. It's an environmental risk, it's drainage risks, it's all, if approved, then he has to comply with this, but you know how compliance goes. So what happens if they don't?
That they're not allowed to develop. It's very straightforward. It's that it went to agricultural. All these government agencies that it was circulated to either provide recommendations or review or suggest what needs to be done, or they object outright. Not one of those are objection outright from any of those government agencies. And that was the requirement that Red River. And environmental.
I know how it works. They give you their what you have to do checklist, but if it isn't followed, they don't always have a lot of recourse. I guess is my point.
I just want to jump in here. It's Mayor Feeblecorn, and I guess I'm going to say it this way. Any subdivision, whether it be this one or another one in the municipality, if there are a number of conditions that are placed on the subdivision, and in my mind, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 12, every one of those conditions has to be met by the developer. In order to have the subdivision registered at the Winnipeg Land Titles Office, the municipality and planning have to give their final approval on the subdivision. So we have a checklist here. If there's 8 conditions and 1 is missing, they don't get their final approval and they cannot register it at Winnipeg Land Titles Office. I just wanted to say that to kind of clarify it a little bit, that if there's 8 conditions, if they're missing 1, and maybe that's a drainage plan for the area, then they don't get their final letter of approval. If there are roads to be built, we a lot of times will ask them to put a bond for the cost of the road. So there's a lot of things that come into play that doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be stamped, approved, and it goes to Land Titles Office to be registered. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. That's all. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And that's all I have. Yeah, thank you guys
Okay, thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Madam Mayor, there was a question.
I just have a question about that environmental study that you read out loud for us. It refers to 32 lots. I thought we were here talking about 33 lots.
That was a typo from it.
Oh.
So which lot was left out of the environmental study? Do we know?
Sorry.
Like,
Which law was laid out?
was there something missing in the event
From,
today?
from the Manitoba CEC.
Yeah, so they received the appropriate information. It was a typo an error in the email.
Thank you.
And one more question. I know it's a long night. If all his compliances are met, can you guys still say no?
Well, the question you ask is kind of backwards for us, because it's up to council to make a decision, whether it be tonight or at our next meeting. That is when he has to start complying. He doesn't comply with all the different regulations or clauses that we put in there prior to it being approved by council.
So those 8 things that he has to do, just using the number 8,
Yeah.
he comes back and they're all done.
Yeah?
Can you still say no?
No, because at that point
Then it
in
has to
time,
go through.
no, at that point in time, it has already been approved by council.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, the council approves it, then we put, right in the resolution, if there's 6 conditions or 8 conditions, they're right in the resolution. He gets a letter from planning once it goes through the RRPD saying that all these things need to be done. And as the developer ticks them off, we have it here, and once he has all 8 conditions, if that's what it ends up to be, covered and done properly, then we issue a final letter of approval. Councillor Boulanger.
Can you or Mr. Administrator explain the new regulation from the province regarding denial that we have to have reasons, otherwise it can be appealed?
Yeah, go ahead, Deepak.
I would ask first the planner to identify and then I can speak to it.
Yeah, so if it's rejected, the applicant will have the opportunity to appeal the decision.
Right.
And the council will have to give reasons why you're rejecting it and that
Oh, in case
So-
okay, go ahead, Deepak. I was just gonna say, in case everybody didn't hear.
Provincial
all that,
regulations have
Deepak.
been put in place through Bill 37.
Yeah.
Bill
33 or 32 or?
33, then became 37, I think.
Yeah.
And Bill 37, it states that municipalities, when these applications received, if they comply, are required to approve, or if they are not approving it, they must provide valid justification as to why they're not approving it. In this case, when we have a report that's positive, with positive comments from all the governing agencies, it gives the opportunity for the developer to be able to challenge the municipality that's province made as a change, saying that they are able to then appeal to the municipal board, just like applicants, as was suggested, somebody thinking that, or suggesting that if they don't agree with the decision of council, they have the right to appeal. That appeal would go to the municipal board, and if the municipal board reviews it, then the municipal board can place additional conditions or not have to abide by any of the conditions, or put the expenses of this entire situation on the RM, saying that you didn't have the appropriate authority to be able to approve. All those things happen. As part of this approval process, what happens is if it gets approved from here, it goes to Red River Planning Board, which then reviews it. After Red River Planning Board, that's where the final decision is at the subdivision.
All right.
And that authority was given by the province to Red River Planning Board to make the final decision on the subdivision. After that, then it's a matter of the appropriate reasons happen. As a matter of fact, if the council approved it, Red River Planning Board could deny it. They could, but it's, again, it's based on policy and process. So the regulations made it very clear, you must adhere to the policies that have been already established, and the interpretation of those policies are the Red River Planning District.
Okay, I have a couple more names on my list, and I'd like to keep going here. The next name I have is Sharice Kichkowski and James Sager. Are either of them in the audience?
I'm here and I oppose.
Okay, anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, I would like to see, if this subdivision goes ahead, I would, minimum 4 acres, not 2 acres, to start. And I would like to see, if they do go ahead with the development, I would like to see a walking trail because there's gonna be possibly another 100 people in the area walking on the road, you know, for health reasons. I would like to see the developer or planner include that, and then possibly take one of the lots and make it green space instead of a house lot. That's what I would like to see. But I oppose the 2 acres, and if it goes ahead with the 4, that's what I would like to see.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I have just a couple more here. Donna Perfanik. Do you want to come forward, please?
I am opposed to the 2 acre lots, and just that I've already submitted written comments. I have nothing additional to add.
Okay, thank you for that. There was another lady on Zoom, Laura Lapointe, and I don't believe that she's here any longer. I don't see her on here. And the last name I have on my list is David Sargent.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, if you want to come forward and... This is your fault.
Yeah, I'm the one that didn't say whether they were for or against it.
That's right, yes.
I knew this was coming up someday. Didn't expect to have to fight it. My objection to it, again, like everybody else, is the size of the lots. I would like to see the 4 acre decisions on Wally. Now, I'm on Church Road, and as the developer said, there's 2 new roads going in. They'll take the traffic off of Wally and put it on Church, but Church seems to be outside of the development, so there's nothing being said about how Church is going to handle this extra traffic. I think it's going to be hard on our road, and I think it's going to need some kind of improvement.
Yes.
And that's all I have.
Thank you for that. Okay, I do not have any other names on my list. And at this point in time, yes.
May I have one question?
Oh, there was a lady behind you also had her hand up. If we're going to be quick, yes, I'll let you go ahead.
I just have a quick question about, you mentioned about a bond on the road.
Right.
So is it are you definitely going to do that, or you're just not sure yet? Or?
That would be something, go ahead, Deepak.
The policy of the RMSA commences whenever a subdivision is being built with roads, infrastructure, or any other types of services that are required. We require a letter of credit to make sure that that work is completed. And if it's not completed by the developer, we cash the letter of credit and do the work.
Okay, but is there like a bond that they have to keep in place for a number of years?
That's the letter of credit.
That would be the letter of credit.
Okay, and how long, what is the period of time?
Until it's complete, and then we hang out to a letter of credit for the warranty period of up to 2 years.
2 years, okay. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
One other thing I wanted to address was with the water and wastewater services regarding the comment, and I know the water, they say there's enough water. The overall aquifer capacity appears to be sufficient to support existing and proposed development. Appears. As we all know, Silo Silica is trying to put in 1,000 wells. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen to our wells, to people that live there now, what's going to happen. I have had a dry season where my well quit running. Is it old? Does it need to be redone? It probably does. But I'll guarantee you, I will probably most definitely have to do it once houses start being put in with 33 down the road. There's already, 15 houses down Wally Road, Reichstadt and Aden. There's got to be at least another 12 to 15 down Church, all on the same aquifer, plus whatever's surrounding us. So that is my other complaint, that water's got to come from somewhere, and I have had a dry well on a dry season from trying to water my garden. So small farmland, trying to even do a garden could become a very big challenge. And all of us are trying to grow more vegetables with the cost of everything these days. So that is another concern of mine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we have gone through the list of people that wanted to speak this evening, and it is now time that the applicant has an opportunity, after hearing everything that the neighbors have said and all the comments made. The applicant now has an opportunity to have some closing comments if they so wish.
Thanks again, Council, for hearing out the application that we put forward. Some of the comments, I'm glad we worked through the comments from the province. Again, none of them were objections. The comments from agriculture quoted the agricultural policies. They didn't quote the infill policies, so that's a flaw with them. There are specific policies that address development. They were quoting the policies that dealt with agricultural uses. I have nothing further to say other than that, but again, thanks for the opportunity to present, and I think I put together the application.
I do have one more question. I'm sure when you were preparing this package and talking with the property owner and all those sorts of things, what was said about the water in the area, if anything? Like, was there due diligence done at this point in time regarding water in the area?
Yeah, there was. So we worked with Freezing Drillers. Mr. Jeff Bell is actually here to confirm aquifer capacity. He's a hydrogeologist and would know a lot more than I would about this, so we referred to his services to confirm capacity moving forward.
Would you like him to speak?
I don't really have a formal report, but I can field any questions that would come up.
Well, I'm not sure that council has any questions, but I know that there were some questions raised from some of the people in the audience this evening. And I don't want to belabor this, but if somebody does have one or two questions, I will allow it, but I am not going to let this go into like a 2-hour debate. So go ahead, Mr. Henderson.
I have one very simple question. Do you know the capacity of the aquifer? I'm sure you're well aware that all of our water either comes from southeast Manitoba or northwest of us up into the Interlake, and we're on a clay pan, and none of our water comes from here except maybe a little bit going into Glacial Ester at Birds Hill. So we have a situation wherein we have fixed supply and increasing withdrawals. Now, I'm sure that you can testify to the flow when you poke a hole in the ground. Can you tell me what the capacity of the whole aquifer is?
I think you've got a lot of good points there, and you raised the point about the overall aquifer capacity. You know, we've been trying as hydrogeologists in the province of Manitoba to determine the overall capacity of the carbon aquifer system throughout the entire province.
Yep.
I worked on that in my thesis in university, and I mean, it's an absolutely monumental task. I thought it was a great point that you raised about, you know, putting more research into it. It's something I would like to see. The only thing that we have at this stage was the provincial hydrograph network that was put in when the floodway was developed in the early 1960s. I've worked all over the world and I've been privy to all sorts of hydrograph networks that we look at to measure the water levels. Those are those little plastic doghouses you occasionally see. I've been in provinces where we have 30 hydrograph stations across the entire province. In Manitoba, we're quite fortunate actually. We have over 1,000 stations. Particularly around Winnipeg, we have a lot of stations actually that were put in mainly relating to the floodway development. So when we look at those hydrograph stations, there are areas of Manitoba that we do see things are, you know, water levels are on the lower side of things, where there's a lot of development occurring. Like around Steinbach and Blumenart, for example, we see hydrographs there are down a little bit. In this area, from all the hydrographs that I've looked at, I see no depleted conditions of the hydrographs. You have some evidence that would show something different, because I certainly, like, all I can tell you is that the hydrograph stations that I look at are not showing anything depleted.
But there's absolutely
Yep.
No, but in this area, yeah. In this area.
But there's absolutely no way.
Excuse me. This is an expert, sir. Excuse me. This is an expert that was provided here by the applicant, and this is not a debate whether you believe the expert or not, or that unless he's providing you his professional opinion, and he's not providing it as anything other than his professional opinion. So I need you to please respect each other when it comes to.
Oh, and I'm only wanting to ask technical questions.
No, I saw other comments, sir, that's why I was.
Okay. So, for instance, if you began to create a great deal of draw in an area, that creates a drawdown cone, correct?
It does.
And when you have a drawdown cone, then some people's wells don't reach the source of water. And such a thing has already happened out by Blumenort from the cheese factory to some people.
Not completely. What drives water levels in the bedrock aquifer is the transmissive condition of the bedrock aquifer. And the bedrock aquifer that we have in this part, it's a fractured bedrock aquifer, so the transmissive condition changes dramatically over short distances. So the typical thing with a small domestic water well is that generally does not have a great amount of hydraulic power to be creating the types of drawdown that you're talking about across a regional sense. So what you said was a very valid point. You know, if we add 30 more lots in a small area, the hydraulic power of those 30 lots is not going to be able to create the type of power that you're talking about in some cases. But if we fill the whole area, then yes, there obviously would be a point to that. So, we have to keep that in mind. What's driving the bedrock aquifer is the transmissivity of the bedrock aquifer.
Well, but I think that you also need to consider the fact that it's limited by the amount of rain that falls on the two areas from where we get our water. Would that not be correct? That's the only source. As the water falls, it runs into the ground, it transmits through the carbonated aquifer, and the actual limit on it, end limit, is once we exceed the amount of rainfall that falls in those areas that feed the aquifer, we're running short.
Yeah, it is, you are right, it is an entirely precipitation-based situation.
Okay, that's all of my questions. I just wanted to determine there is no measurement of capacity of the aquifer.
You're correct.
Thank you.
If you have any further questions, please give me a call in my office. I'd love to talk to you further about it if you have further questions.
Sure, okay.
Okay, thank you for that.
I was just wondering about the silica sand thing that's going on. How does that?
Please just get through an event without having to answer.
No, I'm just wondering what impact, if any, will that have here?
I think I will respect the council. Like, if you want to talk about that outside, quickly, I'm more than welcome to.
But we all have private wells here. So, and then you're talking about building 30, dropping in 33 more. So I'm just wondering, are we going to, with the silica sand and more draw locally, are we going to run into a problem? Well, I don't know.
If I could attempt to answer the question, sir.
You're a
that's a separate. I'm not a specialist on this, but I'm going to tell you what I'm recommending here. The expert is going to talk about the capacity of the water here. Silica sand situation is a separate issue. It's more on the contamination of the aquifer, has been some of the claims, not the drawdown of the water aquifer itself, is my understanding. If you could just at least address that part.
I have read the CEC report, obviously, on the Silica project. It was a very comprehensive report. I've read all of their submissions. I had more questions after I read it than when I started. One thing we have to remember with aquifer systems is that they have very, very slow movements. We're talking in the rate of meters per year. So I think that these sort of widespread concerns about what's going on, if you live in the immediate area, I would say maybe you have reason to be immediately concerned. But in terms of the power of the entire system, I can show you a map to the extent of the recharge area here. It's absolutely phenomenal, the size of the recharge area. The entire Sandylands glacial fluvial complex and how the aquifer has been cut off in that area, it's fantastic in its capacity. But the Silica project is a long way away, and the points that the CAO raised are valid. But if you want to talk further about it off the record, I'm more than willing to discuss with you what I know of it. Sorry, I tried to be brief.
That's okay. So, as far as comments from all the presenters this evening, I think I'm going to shut it down now, and I'm going to give the applicant again another opportunity if he has any further comments. And if not, we will move forward with our meeting this evening. Go ahead, Councillor Basil.
There was another question that wasn't addressed in regards to our burn pit.
Yes, there was a comment made that development had an impact on the Dunning Road transfer station. And what it was an existing property that was there already, who had development rights. It had nothing to do with new development happening in that area. The existing property that was right next door to Dunning Transfer Station had development rights, which was to put up a building that they had an impact, which is what we put into our frequently asked questions as associated to the Dunning Transfer Station. So when they went out and applied for a permit, which they didn't need any approval from the rural municipality because they have development rights, such as a residential house, a property can put up a shed or a building on their property. When they did that, there's a requirement under provincial legislation that our burn pits couldn't be within 400 meters, approximately, or 300 meters, don't quote me on the numbers. And within that period, we were within that restricted zone, so we couldn't do any more burning. That was what was the reason that the burning for the Dunning Transfer Station was halted. Have I answered the question?
Yeah, it didn't come from us, that was from the province.
Yes, that was it's provincial legislation that requires us. So that transfer station had been existing there for a long time, along with that industrial property that was there for a long time, and they had the opportunity to develop, which they did, and had an impact on our ability to burn. And that's what caused that. And so in order to address that issue, RM continued to work at addressing that issue by contacting the RMOE St. Paul. And as we work with the RMOE St. Paul, we've been able to make arrangements for our backyard waste to be delivered over to the East St. Paul transfer station. And you'd be able to use your cards, and then we'll be tracking that over the winter. So for this fall, it's been made.
Right next door.
Right next door, which is very nearby, and that was the solution for the moment. Yes, council has also made a decision to look at the overall future closing of the Dunning Transfer Station. When that happens, council has said that that will happen when we come up with an alternative plan for those individuals. So we are in negotiations with East St. Paul and possibly some other solution in order to provide that option before it's closed. Yes, the hours of operation were reduced. And the hours of operations were reduced because it wasn't feasible to continue to run the Dunning Road transfer station for the limited amount of usage, specifically because there's many of the individuals are on curbside pickup. And this council made a decision that curbside pickup was not going to be mandatory, and it's still not mandatory. And so that's where we sit with the Dunning Road transfer station. All this is outside of this public hearing process, so please.
Thank you.
And for all new builds, any new houses coming on, council's policy with the new curbside is they must be on the curbside.
Can I just,
Okay, we're getting
you know, I
way
know,
off
but he's
topic
talking
here.
about it, he's talking about the Dunning, and I just wanna say that the metal, the oil, the electronics, those are important to us to have a place to put that stuff.
Right now, you can take those to Dunning, correct?
Yes, but when the
And
time
Dunning
comes when
hasn't
that,
closed.
but when it does close, cause I hear it will, like, let's keep that in mind that we have, cause I don't wanna see that stuff in our ditches, right? Like,
That's the
people will
intent.
start doing that, right? If
Yes,
it's
ma'am,
not
but
convenient.
But if you, what I just said was Dunning would be closed when there's an alternative plan.
Great, perfect.
And same with Clark and all those, right? You'll have a plan.
Okay, let us move forward. I see one more hand. Is that to do with the proposal that's before us?
Yes, just in hypothetically speaking, if you pass this, what kind of control are you gonna have over the building of the houses? Are we gonna get mobile homes in there? Are we gonna have certain sizes? I know most of us have custom built homes along here. So what kind of control, what size, like what's going on here? I don't want to walk out of my house and see Transcona, every house looking the same. I don't want Randall or Qualico or some garbage builder anymore.
There's no development, a developer has a right to restrict development in a development agreement if they wanted to have a specific look and feel. If they ask for that, then the development agreement identifies for that. The zoning makes regulations as to where mobile homes and other types of construction can occur. On these properties, they'll be zoned residential, so they'll only be allowed to have residential properties. But just like your house, no one was able to dictate. You've chosen to build a large house or a small house, and you're allowed that as your development rights.
Is Landmark building the homes as well?
Landmark is representing the property owner who's doing subdivision of the land.
Like out the road? Or no? You know, the subdivision you have going on out here, where all the houses are finished? And
This is
that's what they're doing?
This subdivision
There's some
down,
lots, right?
this subdivision down here was subdivided by a developer. That developer then hired, either sold the properties and people hired their own builders, or he hired builders to build, and then he sold them. That's
These they're all finished.
Pardon?
They're all finished homes.
These ones? Yes, they're all finished.
It'd be nice to have one.
I think that's the intent.
Andre, if you could answer that, or if you know what the developer or what the property owner is planning to do there, or have any idea of what might be built there?
Yeah, absolutely. The property owner has been very firm saying that they want it to be a high-end development, and they want architectural controls for what goes in there.
So that would become part of the development agreement then?
Yes.
It'll be registered on title. They'll have to
So
vote.
if you bought one of those lots and wanted to put a mobile home on it, ain't gonna happen.
Okay, put a truck facility. We'll leave it at that.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But you might need 2 lots.
I probably would, yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to close this off, and I would ask that I have a resolution to close the public hearing for subdivision file S233014.
Just before we close it off, Madam Mayor, I just noticed that there was a comment put in writing, and I just want to make sure we address it.
Okay.
I just want to clarify, was by Sonia Newsler, was it stated that the professional opinion is based on information from studies during the construction of the floodway in the 1960s?
What was the question? I missed the first part of it. I can't read that.
I just want to clarify that. I think she's just responding to
Well,
your point that it was based.
Yeah, that's when our hydrograph network was started as part of the floodway investigations. Prior to that, we had no hydrograph network in the province.
So that's just stating that the hydrograph network information was there, but that's not what dictated your study. You used that as well as all your other.
Many others, yeah.
Thank you. Just want to make sure we clarify that.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say that when there is a revision on when this comes forward, it should be stated, it should be something should go to the planning board and say that something should come across and say revision on it. You know, just for residents and for us to, just to bring it to attention of what was and what the mistake was and what the revision is. So, and the date.
Yeah, thank you.
Just as that can be brought forward to.
Yeah, and I see
for them to take
Femi's
about.
making a note of that probably to make sure that if there are any changes to any of the comments prior to the public hearing, if it can be kind of bold and put on their website plus in our info packages.
Or something in red, something highlighted,
Yeah.
just to bring it to more attention that something was changed or something came in later.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask for the resolution to close the public hearing on the subdivision.
Resolved that the public hearing for S23-3014 be closed in the regular session of council.
Madam Mover, Councillor Borges, Councillor Bazarowic seconds. Any further discussion on this subdivision for closing the public hearing? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so we have a resolution before us regarding the subdivision. So if we want to bring that forward, please.
Regarding subdivision application S23-3014, proposed of landmark planning and design to subdivide part of River Lot 213 and 214 Parish of St. Andrews Plan 3393. Resolved that council approve the said application subject to the following conditions. 1, applicant owner submits confirmation in writing to the chief administrative officer of the municipality that A, taxes on the land to be subdivided for the current year or any arrears have been paid. B, development levies, road levies, and administration fee to be paid. C, provide a digital copy of the plan of subdivision to the Arm of St. Clements. D, an engineered drainage plan and road plan be prepared to the RM servicing standards. E, a drainage easement plan be prepared if required. F, developer responsible to construct Rico Road and Hagan Street between Church Road South and Wally Road. G, dedicate 10% land to public reserving or cash in lieu as determined by council. H, enter into a development agreement with the Arm of St. Clements to address items including but not limited to, if required, I, an engineered drainage plan and road plan and easement plan if required. 2, letter of credit for drainage work and road construction. 3, any other standards deemed necessary by the municipality. And number 2, applicant owner submits confirmation from the Drainage and Water Rights Licensing Branch of Manitoba Conservation and Climate that the application has satisfied all requirements from that agencies as detailed in their correspondence from November 15, 2022. These include, if required, approval of an engineered drainage plan, approval of hydraulic design calculations, and obtaining water rights license. For more information, please contact the province of Manitoba with the email provided. 3, applicant owner submits written confirmation to the Red River Planning District for Manitoba Hydro and Centragas that an easement agreement has been entered into with Manitoba Hydro and Centragas with respect to existing and or future facilities associated with the subdivision, and a plan of easement as required by the Real Property Act has been provided. Registration of this agreement will include as a condition of the final certificate of approval. 4, applicant owner submits written confirmation from Bell MTS that an easement agreement has been entered into with Bell MTS with respect to existing and or future facilities associated with the subdivision, and a plan of easement as required by the Real Property Act has been provided. Registration of this agreement will be included as a condition of the final certificate of approval. 5, applicant owner submits written confirmation of the RRPD from Shaw Communications Inc. that an easement agreement has been entered into with respect to existing and or future facilities associated with the subdivision. Registration of this agreement will be included as a condition of the final certificate of approval. 6, applicant owner provides confirmation to Red River Planning District from Manitoba Archaeological Assessment Services Unit that a pre-impact assessment has been completed. And 7, applicant owner obtains variances for undersized lots from Red River Planning District.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Belanger, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bazarowicz. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
I know somebody had asked about maybe making, is there any way that they could put like a walkway that they said in here? Could you ask the developer if they could put something in that would join up to the flood or somewhere with all the walking trails that we have around that area? Could that be something that could be brought forward in the development agreement maybe?
Like along Guns Creek?
Yeah, something that, you know, like, so the traffic's not on the road as much or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
happy to work with establishing the trail network.
Yeah?
Well, and there is the Trans-Canada Trail.
Yeah, the Trans-Canada Trail goes there.
Yeah.
Or something, you know?
Don't want to say too much.
Okay, go ahead.
There will, we have a community center down Donald Road, and probably eventually, that's one of our things to have to join up to that Trans-Canada Trail too on the highway, so that would be.
So maybe something here that could all.
Yes, the start of it would be something good, yeah.
Okay, anything else? I have a mover, I have a seconder. I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight and all your comments. Waste of our time.
Holy smokes, you guys. Unbelievable. Holy Jesus. Vote these guys out.
Why even invite us?
Holy
Yeah.
Jesus, guys, honest to God, did we not make any cuts at all? How did we make a decision
The way you
so
were
fast?
talking, it sounded like the decision was made already. This is wrong. We can vote this, RM, and we're going to next time. You know what, you guys got in an acclamation, but we're coming back. We're coming back.
Unbelievable,
Voting to this.
unbelievable.
Thank you for your time.
I want you to know something about this. I've been in business for a long time, I've been in international business. I'm very experienced, and I've never lost a legal case.
What a joke.
Let us move on.
Start canvassing everywhere.
Mr. Mayor, can I make one last comment? So throughout this proceeding, I'd like to thank you for your professionalism. This went no different than how I expected from my past experiences. But I have to say that I was extremely disappointed. More than one occasion to watch Councillor Belanger spin his finger in the air like, you know, maybe you don't live down these roads that we're talking about. This really matters to us. Maybe it was taking away from your busy day, but everybody's got a busy day here. You are a representative of this council. You're a representative of all the people that live in this rural municipality. I was disgusted to see you say anything like that.
Can't read my file. Can't read my file on this subject. You're telling me I can't read my file on this subject.
You were spinning your finger as to say, let's move this along. And there was no discrepancy about it. I saw more than once. You know,
Can you answer why? Why?
Can I just say something? Sorry. This is how it works now. When the government that is here right now, that everybody voted for,